Welcome to season 2 of Building Her. Last episode, we ended with an invitation to build together, to step in, to stop waiting for someone more qualified, more resourced, more ready. That invitation is still open. But this episode is not about inspiration. This episode is about urgency because the Black community is under attack. And anybody who chooses to ignore that is a person who is on the other side of that attack. Anybody who refuses to look at the blatant, documented, legislative dismantling of resources and rights in our community is a person who is part of that dismantling. What happens when a community is expected to survive without ever being supported? You're listening to Building Her, where we tell the truth about systems, about funding, and what it really takes to build something that lasts. I'm Kanika Lachey, founder of Fast Tail Girl Model to Mentor program. And this is not just a podcast. This is where we learn how to stop waiting and start building. Because her becoming is her healing, and her healing is holy. I do not say that to be inflammatory. I say that because after 20 years of nonprofit work, community development, and services to families who are living inside these systems, I do not have the luxury of being polite about what I am watching happen. I want to be clear about where I am speaking from. I'm a Black woman, a nonprofit founder, a certified nonprofit executive with over 2 decades of sector experience. I am a psychology professional with a concentration in child and adolescent behavior. I am not a commentator watching this from the outside. I am a builder who serves the families that these policies are directly targeting. The girls in my organization, Fast Tail Girl Model to Mentor program, the majority of them do not look like me. They are brown girls. They are our largest population. I founded this organization because it was Black girls who mirrored my story. It was their pain I felt in my spirit. But from the beginning, our doors have been open to every girl who needed what we offer, because that is what Black-led nonprofit organizations do. We do not look down on people because of their color. We do not turn families away because they do not live a certain kind of way. We simply serve because our hearts, our spirits, and our missions are aligned with serving humanity. But we cannot forget, and we cannot allow others to make us forget, that we started these organizations out of our own wombs, out of watching people who look like us navigate obstacles that this country deliberately placed in front of them. And this is the context for everything that I am about to say. When I say the Black community is under attack, I am not being dramatic. I am reading legislation. I am tracking executive orders. I am watching what is happening to the families that we serve every single day. And what I see is a very deliberate attempt, not just to take away the little bit of resources our community has, but to structurally eliminate our access to resources entirely. Because taking away what little the Black community has already is not a reduction, it is a sentence. When families do not have food, that affects children's ability to learn, development, and survive. When families are under compounded stress with no access to behavioral health support, that shapes the mental health crisis we are seeing right now in our youth. And when families cannot access health care, the long-term impact on community health is not abstract. It is a generational thing. Wealth disparities between Black families and other communities are not by accident. Suicide rates rising in Black youth, that is not by accident. These outcomes are the result of deliberate policy choices, and right now those policy choices are accelerating. I want to be very specific because specificity is what separates analysis from opinion. Let me take you through what has actually been done. In June 2023, the Supreme Court issued its ruling on students for fair admissions versus Harvard, voting 6-3 to end race-conscious admissions at colleges and universities nationwide. The ruling came down on June 29th, 2023. It reversed 4 decades of precedent. That decision did not happen in isolation. It happened in the same country where data from California, which banned affirmative action in 1996, showed long-term measurable declines in Black and Hispanic enrollment in higher education, particularly in STEM and graduate programs. We already had the cautionary tale. They ruled anyway. Then in January 2025, within the first days of the second Trump administration, a series of executive orders were signed dismantling DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, across the federal government and signaling the same in the private sector. These executive orders went out on January 20th and 21st, directed federal agencies to eliminate any DEI offices, place DEI employees on administrative leave, terminate DEI contractors, and require private sector federal contractors to certify they do not operate DEI programs. The Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, created in 1957 to protect Black voting rights and enforce civil rights laws, saw more than 60% of its workforce depart following the new directive. The Department of Education has been critically defunded. Staff in the Civil Rights Office have been laid off, and a third of the department's total workforce has been eliminated. Voting rights protections have been weakened. Fair housing enforcement has been rolled back. Environmental justice offices, which existed specifically because Black communities disproportionately bear the health burden of environmental harm, have been dismantled as well. Major corporations, Target, Amazon, McDonald's, backed away from their racial equity commitments under pressure from this administration. These actions have been tracked and documented, all publicly available. And all of this flows directly from Project 2025, a governing blueprint that called explicitly for eliminating DEI from every level of government, reversing civil rights enforcement, and dismantling the Department of Education entirely. This is not speculation about what they want to do. This is documentation of what they have already done. Now, I want to stay on education for a moment because this is where I live professionally and personally. Listen to what I'm about to share. Whoever controls education controls the future. The education of our children is the education of the future of this world into our community. They know that. That is why the Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action was not just about college admissions. It was about who gets into the rooms where decisions are made. It was about who gets access to the credentials that open professional doors. It was about the pipeline, who enters it and who does not. And when you cut Black and brown students out of that pipeline at the admissions level, the consequences are not felt immediately. They are felt a generation later and consistently. And that is the point. Our ancestors understood this. When people were still being enslaved in this country, they were building schools, training educators, developing doctors and lawyers by any means available. They did not wait for the system to invite them. They did not wait for permission. They built because they understood that an educated generation cannot be moved as easily as an uneducated one. And if we have more information, more technology, and more resources than our ancestors ever had, and we are not organizing right now, we have failed them. Not the system, us. Here is what I know from 20 years of being inside nonprofit and community development work. When the government steps back from funding community services, when institutional philanthropy is pressured to abandon equity-centered grant making, when corporations retreat from DEI commitments, the gap does not disappear. The gap fills with nothing. And the families in that gap keep suffering unless we fill it ourselves. And that is exactly what this moment is calling us to do. I have said it before and I will keep saying it. We cannot keep looking for institutions that are part of the system, keeping us oppressed, to also be in the systems that fund our liberation. That is not a strategy, that is dependency. And dependency in this political environment is more dangerous than it has ever been. We have to think beyond these systems and start believing in what is within us. We need to start building our own funding infrastructure, community funded, community sustained, community controlled. What I am seeing on the ground, these are not future needs. These are right now needs. Mentorship and education programs at every age level, not just college. Behavioral health services. The mental health crisis in our youth is not a trend. It is a crisis. It is an epidemic. Workforce and career readiness programs, job skills, professional development, economic mobility pathways our community, our people need. Food security programs. Hunger in our community is not a statistic. It is a reality for families we serve. And case management and social work. Families who do not have the knowledge of how to navigate skills. They need systems and need guidance. They don't need judgment. Community organizing, not just passion, not just awareness, but structured, funded, sustainable organizing that can outlast any single election cycle. Our people need to know we're here for them. These are categories where Black-led nonprofit organizations are doing the work. The government has intentionally underinvested in these categories. And these categories is where your support, time, skill set, and dollars every month is needed. This is not charity. It is infrastructure. And I'm going to be honest with you. The way I've been honest with you every episode of this podcast. Yes, we're behind. Not years behind where we should be. We're decades behind where they already want us to be. Project 2025 wasn't written last year. That thing was published years ago, before this administration. These people organized and put that book together, planned and funded infrastructure for what they intended to do to us. And we are still debating whether the threat is real. It's real. The legislation is real. The families being harmed right now are real. So if episode 7 was an invitation to build together, this episode in season 2 is me telling you the invitation cannot wait. We should have already been organized. We should already have the infrastructure. We should already be funding the community service programs and services that our people need. And if we are not, we start now, not next month, not after November, but now. This is exactly why the Design Experience Innovator exists. Not as a professional development course for people who want a certificate, but as infrastructure training for people who are ready to be part of the building what our communities need. Program developers, organizational designers, funding strategies, case managers, community organizers, educators who understand systems, people who can take vision and build it into something real, structured, and sustainable enough to outlast the political moment that we are in right now today. That is the community I am building. And that is the table this session is set around. The work is not optional anymore. The invitation is still open, but the urgency is now. Before I let you go, I want to talk to you about what it means to build her. Not just listen to her, not just share her, but actually build her. This podcast exists because I believe that when we educate our community, we strengthen it. And I want you to be a part of that strengthening. There are 3 ways to do that. If you want to invest in your own development, become a monthly subscriber for $10 a month. Every month, you get access to one workshop designed to help you build, grow, and lead with strategy. If you want to commit to the journey, our annual plan is $100 a year. Same monthly workshop, 2 months free. One decision that keeps you in the room all year. And if you are ready to go all in, become a founding member. For $150 a year, you get full access to our courses, live and recorded. Our next one is DEI, Design Experience Innovator, a complete course in business development, organizational development, and funding readiness for emerging women in business. You get office hours with me, and you receive public recognition as a co-investor in Fast Tail Girl. Because founding members are not just subscribers, they are builders, they are investors, they are the reason HER exists. 3 tiers, 1 mission. All the links are in the show notes. Choose the level that meets you where you are and know that every level moves this work forward. This is building HER, and HER is being built by all of us.